Can the US bring iPhone manufacturing back to America without breaking the bank? Let's take iPhone 16 Pro Max as a case study. A $999 iPhone 16 Pro Max made in China seems like a technological marvel until you dissect its cost structure. According to teardown reports from TD Cowen and Tech Insights, the factory production cost in China averages $485 per unit, covering 1,500 components like Samsung's $80 OLED display, TSMC's $45 A18 Pro chip, and Foxconn's $15 assembly fees. This figure reflects China's dominance in electronics manufacturing, where 90% of iPhone components are sourced within a 200-mile radius of Zhengzhou's Foxconn plant. Shipping a container of iPhones from Shanghai to Los Angeles adds $0.75 per unit for air freight. Apple prioritizes speed over cost, while the 125% US import duty on Chinese-made electronics pushes the landed cost to $1,091. This tariff, part of Trump's 2025 trade policies, disproportionately impacts smartphones due to their high import content. Next come the hidden layers. Apple spends $200 per unit on global R&D, e.g., titanium alloy machining, AI camera algorithms, $150 on marketing campaigns, and $50 on regional distribution centers. Taxes and administrative overhead add another $80, bringing the total to $1,571. At this stage, Apple sells the iPhone to retailers like AT&T for $650, pocketing a $271 profit, a margin compressed by tariff-induced cost spikes. Retailers aren't in the charity business. AT&T pays $650 wholesale, but needs to cover store leases, employee wages, and trade-in subsidies. To achieve their target 35% margin, they price the iPhone at $999. However, real-world sales often involve promotions. During Black Friday, that $999 iPhone might drop to $799, shaving the retailer's profit to $149 per unit. Now imagine producing that same iPhone 16 Pro Max in Arizona. The factory cost alone would surge. US assembly workers earn $30 per hour, 8 times China's rate. And even with Tesla Optimus robots costing $250,000 each, labor cost per unit jumped to $30. Sourcing materials becomes another hurdle. 90% of iPhone components still come from Asia, adding $45 per unit for shipping and tariffs. Building a US assembly plant with robotics, retrofitting a facility for 10 million units annually would require $20 billion upfront, costs that translate to $200 extra per iPhone. By the time you factor in marketing and retail margins, that $999 iPhone would need to sell for $1,822 to break even. Consumers aren't lining up for that. Industry surveys show Americans tolerate $100–$150 premium for Made in USA labels, but at 120% price hike, only 12% of buyers would bite, according to a 2025 FDRA poll. Meanwhile, Asian competitors like Samsung could undercut US prices by 40%, eroding market share. Even if Apple somehow overcomes labor and automation costs, the Asia-centric supply chain remains a noose. China produces 85% of iPhone components, and rebuilding that ecosystem stateside would take decades and $500 billion in infrastructure. Critical materials like indium for displays and rare earths for magnets are concentrated in Chinese mines, creating delays and dependency. The US government's $52 billion CHIPS Act aims to boost domestic semiconductor manufacturing, but iPhone assembly isn't a chip fab. Subsidizing electronics production would cost $200 million per 1,000 jobs, a political non-starter when voters prioritize healthcare and education. Bringing iPhone production home isn't about tariffs or robots, it's about physics. The $1,086 cost gap between Asian and American manufacturing, compounded by supply chain inertia and consumer price sensitivity, makes reshoring economically impossible. As one industry insider bluntly put it, you can't automate away the fact that Asia built this system over 30 years. Tearing it down would cost more than the iPhones are worth. So yes, the US could make iPhones domestically if taxpayers footed a $400 subsidy per unit, consumers accepted doubled prices, and we ignored the decade-long rebuild. But in a world where $999 iPhones already compete on thin margins, that's not a solution. It's a fantasy.